The oldest profession, as it should be, was widely represented in ancient Rome. To distinguish hoes from ordinary women, they were ordered to wear yellow clothes and red shoes, and they had to work in one of brothels which were called lupinariums. There was also in Rome its own analogue of Greek hetaira. A free woman who provided lawmaking, could increase her status if she was well read, knew how to play a flute or guitar and dance well. That is, she could entertain clients not only with her body. Such women had a chance to get into high society, find one rich regular customer, and live more or less in prosperity. There was also a vice police in the city, which conducted raids on drinking establishments and bars, in search of unregistered public women, in order to register and tax them. Hoes, as a rule, also wore large wigs of blonde hair, shaved and painted their intimate places with red paint. They usually worked in dirty fetid brothels, run by rude pimps. The society attitude towards the priestesses of love was ambivalent. On the one hand, it was seen as a necessary evil. Kate the Elder recognized undoubted benefits of paid pleasures, which allowed young people to indulge in their basest aspirations without molesting the wives of other men. At the same time, the Romans considered people offering their bodies for money to be the most despised in society. Usually, both in the era of the Republic and in the times of the Empire, the hosts came from poorest families, who left them without proper attention immediately after birth. They could also be beggars, slaves who were forced to sell their bodies, or criminals. Nevertheless, there were also free women who just liked this way of life. In addition, representatives of the oldest profession were also divided into various categories. Courtesans were considered above all others, beautiful, refined, with good manners, which could spend months with their regular customers. They were respected by the men who hired them. They were even allowed to participate in men's conversations, expressing their opinion. In return, they had to show the client the same respect that they would show their husbands. Next followed hostess of taverns or inns. They were not averse of receiving additional income by entering into intimate relations with guests. Not for nothing Romans associated them with women of easy virtue. They were most often married, but husbands were not interested in what they were doing. Depending on the category of horse, clients paid them from 2 to 16 asses. 16 asses are equal to 1 silver denarius, the main monetary unit. The main condition was payment in advance. For comparison, Roman legionaries received wages of 300 denarius per year at the beginning of the 2nd century. Thus, hoes earned much more than legionaries, and didn't risk their lives. Of all the places for engaging in intimate pleasures with public women, the most popular were lupinarias or brothels, located in the most visited areas of Rome. Inside of them the atmosphere was disgusting. Unpleasant odors, walls decorated with obscene drawing of customers. The house worked in small cells. On a door of a room the owner could write a name of a woman, often fake and her sexual specialization. The walls inside as well as outside were covered with indecent pictures. In the poorest brothels for the common people, such rooms looked more like caves or cellars, with steep walls called a hole. The Roman writer Horace claimed that there was such a sickening stench in these holes that men who had been there carried it with them for a long time. The key character of a brothel was a pimp. Practically, he was the owner of it, and among other things was responsible for hiring or buying slaves to replenish the staff. The pimp also had to control clients, making sure that they did not exceed the time limit for one person. The action itself in the Roman era did not imply any preliminary caresses, which are now considered mandatory. Everything was very simple. The pimp had several tokens indicated prices, which depicted various positions. that helped communicate with foreigners who did not know the language. But the main peasants of Brussels were still hoes, not pimps. They used to stand in a doorway of a lupinarium to attract customers. Public women dressed in short tunics of provocative colors or even transparent ones. This was necessary not only to attract men, but also because the law required it. They should not be mixed up with decent women. Nevertheless, over time decent women began to wear similar clothes. Later, when the conquest of legionnaires brought to the city a lot of blonde female slaves, it became customary for the hoes to dye their hair in light tones, or if they did not have money for it, to buy an appropriate wig. They didn't take off their wigs in Brussels either. In order to be even more different from matrons and better attract customers, women of easy virtue widely used various cosmetics, covering cheeks with blush and enlarging eyes with charcoal, applying a thick layer of make-up, and smearing nipples with red paint. Thus, even public-aged women could deceive men and prolong own working life for several more years. Usually intimate pleasures were practiced after dark. It was not customary to engage in them in a lighted room. The same thing happened with clothes. It was considered indecent to be completely naked, even in a brothel. The walls of the preserved lupinarium in Pompeii are covered with inscriptions made by visitors. The men reported how they spent their time and with whom. Some inscriptions contain the cost of services. One of them says that its author had a good time with a certain dravka for a denarius. In another it is reported that a man paid 2 asses for fellatio, oral pleasures. The general range of prices was not too wide, from 2 to 16 asses. That is, the Pompeian dravka took the upper limit of the dachshund for her services. Apparently she was young and pretty, but she was not included in the highest category. The girls who worked there took 32 asses, 2 denarius, probably by modern standards. They were escort-level ladies. Well, now let's compare prices of the lupinarium with other Roman prices, to understand whether it was expensive or not. Entering to bath cost 1 ass, but all additional services were paid separately. For 1 ass you could rent a room for love-making, or buy a bowl of beans for dinner, or half a liter of cheap sour wine. For 2 asses they gave a loaf of bread, or half a liter of more better wine. For 4, half a liter of good Falernian wine. Dinner in a tavern with wine cost 5 asses. Under Julius Caesar, 1st century BC, rental housing in Rome was up to 20 asses per day, and in provincial Italy 4 to 5 asses. This is despite the fact that the baker was paid 5 asses per day, the legionnaire 10, and the sewerman for cleaning cesspools 11. Thus, a salary of less than 10 asses in the province, not to mention the capital, means a very poor life. Ordinary citizens could not often visit the lupinarium with such earnings, and the hosts themselves can be classified as highly paid workers. If you liked this video, please put likes, write comments and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for attention, see you!